Okay, we are live now. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to today's webinar hosted by Jabalpur Smart City and Jabalpur Incubation Center. And today's topic is price testing and its importance. My name is Ankit Rajak and I'm a host for today's session. Along with me today we have our invited guest, Mr. Rahul Pandey. Rahulji, we welcome you on behalf of Jabalpur Smart City and Jabalpur Incubation Center.
Thank you, Ankit. It's my pleasure to be here and connecting with all the entrepreneurs. Thanks for invitation.
Okay, so let me quickly introduce our today's speaker, Mr. Rahul Pandey. Rahul ji is have a deep passion about innovation, entrepreneurship, and startups. And he's a founder of Pulpy Dive and on a mission of democratizing consumption of healthy food. Previously, he worked as Chief Operation Officer at Startup Incubation Center, Delhi. As part of entrepreneurship ecosystem, he keeps engaging with students, innovators, and aspiring startups entrepreneurs to help them and solve the real indigenous problem of India. He constantly provides mentoring support related to agri-tech startup, mental health startup, ed-tech startup, food and beverage related startups. He has a expertise in the following domain like defining the value proposition, opportunity assessment, business model generation, develop go to market strategy, and connecting with the potential investor. He also provide consultancy for funding support for a startup, and he engaged himself to connect with new people and strengthen the global network. So we really eager to know various things with you, Rahul ji. And now I request you please start your session.
Sure. Thank you, Ankit, for this wonderful introduction, and I'm pleased to be part of this session today, taking this session for the audience over here. So so good afternoon, everyone. So we will be kind of talking about pricing and why pricing is important for startups in next 45 minutes or so. I usually engage in a dialogue fashion, so I'm not sure if Anki that is allowed here. Like people can.
Yeah, we are live in YouTube session. Once we have a questions, then we will take at the end of the session.
Perfect, perfect. So it makes my task a little easier. So yeah, so we will be talking about pricing. It's important. How do we come to a pricing for a product or so, and then finally we'll try to conclude with question answers from the esteemed audience over here. So this is very interesting actually. So I have been an entrepreneur for almost 4 or 5 years now. Have built one of the businesses in Bangalore, took an exit from there, then started working in entrepreneurship ecosystem for last 4 or 5 years, and again I took a break, and for last 1.5 to 2 years I'm building my own brand right now. And I would say one of the big challenge which any entrepreneur faces is, biggest challenge I would say, is coming up with the right set of pricing for its product and the services. Because when you start off, it is you guys might be aware of the problem which you are trying to solve. As an entrepreneur, you guys might have worked out a lot to come up with an interesting product, or I would say interesting idea for your problem solving, and translate that idea into some form of a product or a service. However, when the time really comes of launching your product, it means taking your product or services to your customer. It's very important to give a price tag onto it, put a price tag onto it. And that's where I have seen entrepreneurs obviously struggling to come up with right set of right price for their product or a service. And I think in next 45 minutes or so, we'll try to demystify a few things, that what is price testing, what is pricing, what is price testing, why is it important, and how can we really go about in coming up with the right service, so that the demand and supply is kind of matched, and um, your objectives, your business objectives are also met, because that's very important. At the end of the day, you are here to solve a problem, very good. You are here to innovate interesting product and features, but it's very important that you make some money out of it, so that your business can sustain. So we will start off with, let's understanding what is pricing. Over the years, what I have realized, that people get confused, or young entrepreneurs or young budding entrepreneurs, they get confused a lot between what is price and cost. So it's very important for us to understand that what is price and cost. What is the difference between price and a cost? Now, there are two things. One is price and cost. Cost is something which is wherein you incur the money to make a certain product or a service, or deliver a service, right? So the amount which you incur, आपका जो पैसा खर्चा होता है, we'll use Hindi and English बीच में. So जो खर्चा आपका पैसा होता है आपका प्रोडक्ट या सर्विसेज को डिलीवर करने के लिए, that is defined as cost. So that becomes the cost to the company. For example, you are making a pen. So if you're making a pen, it means what all things are required in making a plastic body, a refill, ink inside it, nib, and then packaging cost, and a lot of things, right? So whatever amount your company is shelving out of the pocket, आपकी जेब से बाहर जा रहा है to make a product or deliver a service, is associated with cost, and that's called cost. So it's very important that you don't get confused between what is cost and price. So cost is something which goes out of the company for making a product or delivering a service. This is one. The second aspect is pricing. Now, what is pricing? Pricing is that you have created a product. There was a cost associated with that product. Now you're trying to make a profit out of it. So you will add some markup to that, into that cost, and then finally you will sell it to the customers. Now, for easy understanding, I am not including any of these wholesalers or dealers or distributors in understanding this concept. I'm directly saying, okay, fine, you are a manufacturer of a product, you have a cost associated with the product, you mark up some profit for that product, and finally एक price लगा के आप customer को directly बेच रहे हो. You are selling it to the customer. The final amount which you are putting on the product or while delivering a service is termed as price. So it's very important for all of us to understand what's the difference between price and cost. And you can do a lot of other research as well, which is available online, a lot of other books also, wherein you can make it clear for yourself what is the basic difference. So this you should make clear. The cost is different and price is different, right? Now, so when I say pricing is something which is marked on the product. So if you go to any of these retail outlets or any of these other any of the other shops, you buy online stuffs online as well, right? So there's always a price tag. So it says like MRP. That's the maximum retail price. So even if we remove those retail channels, suppose you are reaching out directly to the customer, so your MRP becomes, suppose आपका एक product था. We'll take an example. For example, mobile phone. This mobile phone, when you create it, it cost you around 100 rupees. Just take an example, right? It cost you 100 rupees. You are saying like my markup would be around 80 rupees for this mobile phone, right? Now, if your markup is 80 rupees, it means you want to sell this product, this mobile phone, to your customers, and your price will be around at 180 rupees, so that your customers can directly buy it from you at 180 rupees. However, whenever suppose you are keeping some discounts offerings, even, and you go into the traditional selling approach, retailer distributor model में, उसमें आपको MRP डाल देते हैं, MRP के ऊपर none of the players can sell it. However, there is a discounting options so that you can play around with the markup. कि कभी 80 rupees आपका markup हो सकता है, कभी 70 rupees होता है, depending on the discounts which you are giving to your customers, and depending on the demand and supply as well, right? So pricing is what? So a monetary value which a manufacturer or a service provider is attributing to the product or a service which they are selling in the market to the end consumer, right? So there is a manufacturer, there is a supplier, or and there is a buyer. So buyer को जो value पे monetary value जो manufacturer और supplier buyer को sell करता है, उसको हम pricing के तौर पे define करते हैं. Now, as I initially mentioned, that pricing is a big challenge, not just for startups. It's a big question for any of the other organizations. No, if you go to even the pocket rich organizations who have huge cash flows, they always do, I would say, price testing before any products are launched in the market at a certain price tag, right? So that's why I kind of define pricing as a magic number. So how do you reach to that magic number so that you manage a balance between the demand and supply, so that your customers are able to buy that product? They can, because it's affordable and they can buy it. They understand the value associated with this and they're able to buy it from the market or directly from you. So how do you reach out to that magic number? So any organization, be it startup, be it big or corporates or any other, they are always pondering around, say, what is that sweet spot jahan par mere ko pricing sahi mil jayegi, right? So we'll try to demystify these things. Now, looking from the product on a service perspective, the next whatever we will be talking, आप उसको अभी product perspective में समझिए तो easy रहेगा समझना, rather than service. हम special sessions भी ले सकते हैं in future. So there are multiple models, but there are basically two types of pricing which are associated with the product. One is the cost-based pricing, and the second one is a value-based pricing. Now, most of the times, small businesses and entrepreneurs, people like me and a lot of others who have joined session, young entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, most of the times we assume that we associate pricing with just cost based. कि भाई मेरा 100 रुपए का माल लग रहा है किसी चीज को बनाने में, because that's the cost I'm incurring. I will keep a markup and I will try to sell it at a pricing point which is suitable for our customers and which is kind of competitive to the other players who are giving a similar kind of a value in the market. So cost-based pricing, mostly it's product-driven. That's what it's written here. When I say product-driven, I mean to say that you have worked on a product, you have identified the cost, you put up a markup and then the price, and then you try to sell it to the customers. So it's the flow is from product to the customer. But it's very important because in today's world, when we are talking about creating some great innovations, and solving great, I would say, ground problems, it's very important for us to understand that there is the concept of value-based pricing. So cost-based pricing का example, classic example क्या हो सकता है? इसके बाद मैंने एक दिया हुआ है छोटा सा calculation करके, but still I will just tell you. So you would have seen, you go to a typical trader, I would say, एक trader है जो 100 रुपए 20 रुपए किलो गेहूं खरीद के ला रहा है, and then चक्की वाला आप बोलता है कि मैं 1 किलो पे 20 रुपए गेहूं 1 किलो पे 20 रुपए बनाऊंगा, तो वो क्या करेगा, 20 रुपए का ला रहा है, 20 रुपए बनाएगा, 40 रुपए किलो मेरे को बेच देगा. So that's the classic example, right? For example, if you are traveling by a car, you stop at a red light on the road, you will find out people selling a lot of stuffs on the ground, right? So what do? They get it from somewhere, tissue paper hai, box hai, they get it from somewhere at suppose 50, 40 rupees, 30 rupees, and they will say, okay, fine, मेरे को बेचना है तो मैं हर box पे 10 रुपए बनाऊंगा. So they will that's a classic example. They will just add 10 rupees on the product, the cost price which was incurred, and they will sell it to the buyers over there. If they are able to sell, it's well and good, and so that they can, they can अपनी रोजी रोटी उनकी चल जाएगी. So that's a classic. Those are classic examples of cost based pricing. Similarly, I have tried to explain this. Product A, cost of making a product is suppose 38 rupees, and as a manufacturer, you try to mark up कि 30 रुपए में बनाना चाहता हूँ एक प्रोडक्ट पे, and you can markup is different and margin is different. I am talking about the markup. So markup is 38 rupees plus 30. It means final price will be simple. Final price will be 68 rupees. So that's how the cost-based pricing is calculated. However, what is important to understand in the pricing context as such, and when you're creating a startup, even big organizations, that what is that value which you are offering to the customers, and hence the concept of value-based pricing. So value-based pricing is always driven by the customer end. So when I say it's driven from the customer, and that's what the entrepreneurship is supposed to do. They are supposed to solve problems for the customers, or prospective customers, I would say, and understand their challenges which they are facing, articulate that problem in a defined manner, come up with interesting ideas, translate those ideas into products, and sell it to the customer. So understanding the value which you are offering to the customer through your product and services becomes the key element associated with value-based pricing. And hence, it's always customer-driven because it comes from the customer rather than creating a product or buying or trading a item somewhere, right? Because that's the difference. So it is driven from the customer side, understanding what are the needs, what are the benefits it will lead to, and what are the value or what is the worth of that benefit, and then coming up with pricing for your product. So we'll just understand this as well. Now, while understanding what is value-based pricing, it's very important in how do you define value for a customer. Now, value cannot be, there are two things. It cannot be in terms of just product and features. It has to be result delivered. When I say result delivered, that for example, if you're a B2B, you are playing in a B2B segment, right? Business to business. So for example, you are creating a software. You have created a SaaS software which you want to sell to your prospective customer. I'll take an example. Now, you would have heard of companies creating inventory management softwares. You would have heard companies creating a lot of human resource payroll management softwares. Why are they creating those softwares? And why are they selling it to businesses? Now, business will buy your solutions and softwares only if these 4 criteria are met, and hence the value will be delivered. Kaise? Improved performance. Now, there were 5 employees, payroll can be managed on a piece of paper. There are 50 employees, then also maybe it can be managed on a piece of paper. But for example, from 50 it rises to 500 people in an organization. How do you manage all these things on a piece of paper? It becomes very challenging. And hence, company starts looking for better options so that we can increase our efficiencies, we can increase our performance, we can improve our operating productivity, we can reduce the risk. So when you as an entrepreneur are creating any solution for any customer, it's very important for you that it has to be result delivered. Result in the sense, either it should improve the performance of the organization, either it should improve the asset productivity of the organization, improve the operating productivity, or it should reduce risk. If your solution is helping your client achieving any of these objectives, they should be ready to at least listen to you. Selling to baad mein hoti rahegi. This is one. On the other side, it's very important to understand that value is also intangible. So what are those intangible values which are associated with pricing? What is it? Not in terms of purchase price, but in terms of total tangible and intangible cost savings over the relationship of the life cycle. So what does it mean? How do you save money? Is the product or a service available at a less money so that they can save money? Is the product and service can help them in reducing the the time frame for which they are doing certain activities जिसमें ज्यादा टाइम लग रहा है, अब आपका प्रोडक्ट और सर्विस लेंगे शायद उससे कम लगेगा. Is there any psychic cost? What do you mean by psychic cost? कि बहुत hassle है लाइफ में. Existing product and services are giving me a lot of hassle, but if I have a better option available which will give me a hassle free life, I'll be happy to take that. Can it help me in reducing my efforts? If that is the case, then you're creating some value for your customers. So when you're trying to work on the cost-based pricing, it's very important that you translate the features which you have involved in your product or the services which you are delivering. Your feature should be translated. यहाँ पर arrow mark है actually. It's not visible over here. Your features must be translated into the benefits for your customers. When the customer perceives the benefit associated with the product which you're offering them, and that benefit must be translated into some worth. And when I say worth, it means the value. It could be a result delivered value, or it could be an intangible value, which we just talked about. Classic example. Why are any of these organizations, whether it's aggregators like Ola or Uber or food delivery platforms, why are they, I mean, they might not be cash flow positive right now. Zomato anyways has gone IPO. That's the different story altogether. But then also, why have they flourished for last 7 to 10, almost a decade or so? Why have they been in existence? Because they are doing something or the other which is mentioned over here. Right now, earlier, I mean, when I was a kid, obviously, when we suppose station jana hai, so it used to be such a hassle यार कि मेरे को 12 बजे ट्रेन पकड़ने पहुंचना है. It means at least 11 बजे तक स्टेशन पहुंच जाऊं. If I have to reach station by 11, it means I should start from home at 9:30. और अगर 9:30 मेरे को घर से निकलना है, उसके लिए मेरे को 1 घंटे से पहले से टैक्सी लेने को ढूंढना पड़ेगा. I have to spend 1 hour to just find out and look around for a taxi, because टैक्सी मिलेगी कि नहीं मिलेगी टैक्सी स्टैंड पे. ट्रेडिशनली टैक्सीज यूज्ड टू बी इन अ टैक्सी स्टैंड, राइट. एक टैक्सी स्टैंड होता था हर नुक्कड़ में, वहां पर टैक्सीज रहती थी. टैक्सी स्टैंड पे जाके मिलेगी कि नहीं मिलेगी तो मेरे को उससे नेगोशिएट करना पड़ेगा. एंड यू ऑल्सो नो कि जैसे ऑटो वाले के साथ आजकल होता है, इफ देयर इज वन ऑफ द टैक्सी वाला विच इज डिनाइंग एट गोइंग एट अ सर्टेन प्राइस, द अदर्स विल ऑल्सो से मेरे को नहीं आना, वैसा हाथ खड़े, बिकॉज दे आर यूनाइटेड, यूनियन है उनकी. सो इट वाज यूज्ड टू बी सो हैसल, राइट, कि मैं 1 घंटा पहले जाऊं, टाइम वेस्ट हो रहा है, नेगोशिएशन चल रहा है, साइकिक इफेक्ट आ रहा है, लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स आर हैपनिंग. नाउ व्हाट आर दिस गाइज डूइंग? व्हाई इज द एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ ओला और उबर मेक सेंस? बिकॉज दे आर ट्राइंग टू रिड्यूस these stuffs from our life. वो हैसल हटा रहे हैं. प्राइस भी मेरे को पता है कि 12 किलोमीटर 13 किलोमीटर पर किलोमीटर मिलेगा, उससे ज्यादा नहीं देने का है. एफर्ट भी कम कर रहा है बिकॉज इट्स कमिंग एट योर डोर स्टेप टू पिक यू अप. सो लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स आर हैपनिंग एंड हेंस फीचर्स तो प्रोडक्ट के होंगे. बेनिफिट्स क्या रहेगा? बिकॉज आई एम एबल टू गेन सम बेनिफिट्स आउट ऑफ यूजिंग योर सर्विसेज ऑल्सो. एंड वर्थ क्या है? बिकॉज आई एम एबल टू मेक माई लाइफ इजियर, right? So these are the classic examples. Yeah, I can't hear you.
Yeah, you just mentioned value-based costing is intangible in nature, and it's
Yes,
always driven by customer end, right?
absolutely.
So we can take it as you can have variation in costing based on the customer demand or customer satisfaction, right?
Absolutely. So I'll just come to that as well. That any you want to add something else to your question?
That means value based costing, we can have some sort of regular feedback mechanism or some sort of regular survey with the customer. Then only we can decide the exact costing of our product or service.
See, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. There is no. I would have come to that on the last slide, but yes, since you have already touched upon this point, it's not like कि आज मैंने ये price set कर दिया and this can be for next 1 साल. So any entrepreneur thinks, okay, today price is set, okay, next 1 year I will not touch it. I think you're living in a fool's paradise. It's very important for you when you're doing price testing वाले हम ideas पे बाद में आएंगे, but whenever you're defining you have already decided कि हाँ ये price रहेगा, it's very important for you to understand the demand and supply क्या चल रहा है, what are the customer feedback. So all those things have to be roped in when you're building your businesses. Otherwise you cannot sustain. It's very important that you have to be always on your toes with respect to every department of your business, and pricing is one of them, right? Number one. Number two, when you talk about, so it is, I would say कि if there is a different set of customers, for example, Ola or Uber can add a premium service. I don't know if it exists right now, but they can add a premium service. Can they add a premium service? Yes, they can add a premium services. And what they have to do? So they can have a differential pricing. This is what is known as differential pricing. Differential pricing from a similar, one organization can have differential pricing. Matlab, if they have a product A, and if they can add some additional features, suppose XYZ, A plus XYZ, XYZ are the additional features which are, so what they can do, they can, while by adding those XYZ features, they can have a differential pricing for a different set of customers using the same car. Kyun? For example, bolenge, okay, you want water during the travel from Delhi to Gurgaon. Ola say, I will ensure that there is a water bottle kept inside the car, but I will charge for you. So they can have a premium model introduced into Ola and Uber with a differential pricing for a different set of customers who is ready to pay for it. And hence, price is value based, yes, but it's not like कि same service, same जैसे हम Ola use कर रहे हैं, कार तो एक ही है ना, वही कार है, but customers different हो गए because उनको value different चाहिए, इसलिए मैं उसे premium charge कर रहा हूँ. So your prices can differ. So there can be differential price mechanism. However, if you're charging a premium, you should show that there is a better value attached to it, right? Comfort ज़्यादा अच्छा है, better value है, हर बार clean करूँगा मैं, right? So all those things. And then you say, okay, I will charge rather than 12 rupees per kilometer. If you're going for a premium service, I will give you all these things, but I will charge you 13 rupees per kilometer. And you can do that. So differential pricing is an option, always an option. Anything else, Ankit?
That's you
Okay.
complete it. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Please continue.
Sure. So now let's understand this, trying to understand the value-based pricing, just small mathematical calculation, what is that? So see, what happens is value is very intangible, as I mentioned, and Ankit also touched upon. Ankit, right? Yeah. Ankit also touched upon. It's very intangible. So it's very important for us entrepreneurs to translate into any tangibility, so that it becomes tangible. चाहे वो पैसे बचाओ, चाहे वो उनको कुछ और चीज दिखाओ, उनको दिखाना पड़ेगा. कस्टमर को intangibility समझ में नहीं आती है. So it's very important for the marketers. However, when you're a startup, you don't have a separate marketing team as such, but big corporates do that. It becomes very important for the marketers to reach परसीव्ड वैल्यूज को, जो परसीव्ड वैल्यू कस्टमर को लग रहा है, उसको ट्रू इकोनॉमिक वैल्यू तक पहुंचाने के लिए इट बिकम्स द रिस्पांसिबिलिटी मार्केटर्स, और इन योर केस एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर इट बिकम्स द रिस्पांसिबिलिटी ऑफ द सेल्स पर्सन हु इज द फाउंडर एट द एंड ऑफ द डे, राइट? It becomes very important for you to calculate and understand the true economic value for the product which you are offering and make it understandable for the customer, for the people. So let's try to understand with an example. Now, for example, there is a product A. Now, alternative pricing. So, for example, you want to come out with the pricing, value-based pricing for your product. आपने एक product launch किया, but you are not sure कि मैं किस तरीके की value, किस तरीके का price point मैं charge कर सकता हूँ customer से. So then you say, okay, fine. There is a near existing player in the market, which is the best available alternate for the customers to go for. अगर मेरे पास नहीं आएगा तो उसके पास ही जाएगा. अगर वो बोल रहा है प्रोडक्ट ए का प्राइस उसका 1 लाख रुपए है, सपोज कोई मशीनरी है, सपोज, राइट? आपका प्राइस आपको पता नहीं है. ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट फॉर दैट मशीनरी, if the customer is buying from alternative existing players, is 2,40,000. For me, it might be a little higher, 2,50,000, because I'm adding little value as well. Now, the customer is concerned about one of the most important things, that he has been seeing कि system crash कर जाता है उसका, and there is a high percentage, 20% chance, which is very huge, because वो business पे effect डालता है, lot of other things happen. So there's a 20% chance कि आपकी probability है कि existing player का system crash कर जाएगा. So how you are better? You are better कि मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि मेरा जो product है, it will reduce your 20% से 1%. your your crash will reduce from 20 to 1%. That's why you should go for my solution. Now when I say 20% तो हो रहा है, लेकिन जब वो क्रैश हो रहा है, what is the cost associated with that crash? 2 लाख रुपए उसको क्रैश को वापस लगाने करने में, for example, right? So what happens? How do you calculate the true economic value for your product? Number one, cost of the alternative, or I would say price of the alternative, plus the value of performance differential. कि आपका solution, your solution is better than your existing player, उसकी value को कैसे define करेंगे? Now, cost of the alternative, which is the price, plus system cost saving. Your system, when they are using, how are they saving cost for the customer? माइनस एडेड ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट, क्योंकि आप बोल रहे हो कि मेरा 2.5 लाख रुपए एक्स्ट्रा लग रहा है ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट में, तो वो उसमें आपने ऐड कर दिया, तो माइनस दैट. If you do a calculation, you will come up with TEV of 1,28,000. Now, customer might say, मेरा ये price तो high है, but at the end of the day, how you have to show them the savings which they are making, the downtime से बच रहे हैं, उससे calculation करके you have to come up with a final value and tell them कि this is what you are able to save in 1 year if you go with our system rather than going with your existing solution. So it's very important that you go for value-based pricing, attach a value to it, and try to make customer understand कि this is how much you will be saving. This is how your life become easier if you want to use my solutions. Correct? That's where it is. So these were the two important concepts before even we get into price testing part. What is cost-based pricing? What is value-based pricing? And how do you kind of differentiate between the two? And why is it important to go for value-based pricing? Now let's get into the next aspect. That okay, fine, that's fine. मैं value-based pricing, cost-based pricing समझ गया. Now how do I come up with कि क्या price tag होना चाहिए for my product? And that's where the traditional, or I would say typical marketing concepts of price testing comes in. Why is it important? That first is to understand what is price testing, and why is it important? वो भी हम cover करेंगे. So basically, price testing, companies, those who have good money to spend, they usually go for these methods. I would recommend startups, those who are present over here, if you are in even if in ideation stage mein ho, ya fir MVP stage mein ho, or even in 1 year into your operations, I would suggest you don't invest a lot of time in traditional way of price testing, because वो survey और मतलब typical research based तरीके से जाओगे तो महंगा भी पड़ सकता है. So try to come up with products and go with the real customers, work with them on the ground, try to sell, get feedback, and then you keep on revising your product for next 1.5 to 2 years. And then only you will get to a sweet point जहां पर लगेगा आपको, now this is fine, at least for some duration. Right? So price testing is what the company's method to determine the ideal price for the product or the services which they want to sell. It helps the companies to identify that sweet spot, as it is written over here, that what company wants and how much the customers are willing to pay for the product. And it also helps in managing or I would say balancing the profits with the existing demand in the market, because there are a lot of factors which affect price testing. At the end of the day, मैंने जो पहले बताया कि you guys are selling in the market to make money. Correct? If you're not able to make money, then you cannot sustain. So there is always a dilemma कि shall I keep the price low, और मैं कितना low रखूं? Shall I keep the price high? So you have to make a balance out of it. For example, if you keep your product price low with less margin or less markup, what will happen? You will get into a vicious cycle जहां पर आप एक ऐसा भी स्टेज आएगा जहां पर आपकी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी कम होती चली जाएगी, आपके पास कैश फ्लो नहीं रहेंगे, आपकी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी कम होती चली जाएगी, यू विल एंड अप फायरिंग लॉट ऑफ पीपल, फाइनली यू विल एंड अप फायरिंग योरसेल्फ. and then you might close the business. So keeping the prices low is also very risky, because you have to, it might not make sense for the business sustainability, number one. Number two, keeping the price very high also is very challenging, because customers might not end up buying it from you. So you are in a soup. You what to do? मैं कहाँ जाऊँ? So it's very important for you to keep on testing. Keep on testing. Be in those pricing water, I would say. Be in that pricing water. Keep swimming. Try to keep yourself afloat to find that sweet spot जहाँ पर customer demand supply सब manage हो रहा है at a certain price. And what are the factors which are affecting? We'll try to cover this. Profit margins, as I mentioned, because profit margins are very important for sustaining the business. So if your pricing is not right, either end up burning cash because your pricing is less, or you end up burning cash because prices are high, customers are not buying. So आपका revenue top margin जो है ना, revenue जिसको बोलते हैं, bottom line top line होता है ना, तो top line जो होता है ना, sales and revenue, that might get affected, and at the end of the day you might end up winding up your business. Then purchasing power, that's very important, because try to understand for which segment of customer you're making your product, and depending on the purchasing power of that customer, which is also important for you to understand, try to find a balance कि हाँ इस price point पे वो खरीदने का ready रहेगा. Same consumer behavior. What are the patterns? At what price point usually customers are buying from the competitors? So it's consumer behavior and computer pricing. It's like, you can kind of club these two. So understanding consumer behavior, at what price point they are buying already in the market. Why are they buying it from the specific customer? If a specific seller adds some value, so understanding from the customer's perspective, will they really understand the value which I am offering? If not, then do I really need to get to add that extra value into for example, a decision of premium car ride in Ola and Uber with some premium services. जैसे मैंने बताया, किसी को हो सकता है पानी का during the ride it's required. Maybe they will say, okay fine, I will give you a क्या बोलते हैं, charging point as well. क्या बोलते हैं उसको, portable, what is it called, power bank. They might give you a power bank, for charging your laptops or anything of that. I'm just giving a random examples. So भाई कंपनी के पास तो आइडिया है कि पानी दे दूंगा, पावर बैंक दे दूंगा, but is the consumer behavior ready to accept that? So even before you get into the pricing part and introducing those additional features which will affect the pricing, you have to understand the consumer behavior. And for that, a lot of research on the ground, sitting with the customers, understanding the pain areas, understanding the challenges is very much essential. You have to spend, as founders, my only advice is spend time with your consumers. वो चार दीवारी के अंदर बैठ के नहीं होता, बिजनेस नहीं बनते हैं. And obviously understanding the competitor prices, which will obviously help you. What are the benefits of price testing? Elaborate the price customers are willing to pay. अगर आप price testing कर लोगे, so it will be easier for you to understand कि customers how much they are ready to pay for your product. Measure the percentage change in demand. कि अगर थोड़ा सा भी अगर price testing कर रहे हो, and suppose you say that there's a delta 1 increase in price, then what is the delta change in demand? If there is a delta minus delta, or I would say delta 1, if you're reducing the price, what is the change in demand? So it's very important for you to understand that change in demand as well, while you're making changes in your price, so that you can make quick decisions which will at the end of the day benefit your business, right? So determine market demand elasticity against a particular product price. So this is from the customers, competitors perspective, which are already in the market. Next is different stages in price testing. I will come to the techniques in the next part. I think they are in the next slide. So what are the different stages in price testing? So any objective or any task which any of these organizations do, or even you guys do, they have these have to be I would say goal oriented, right? So अगर हम testing कर भी रहे हैं, तो why are we doing this? First is defining the goal of the testing. Why are we doing this? So for example, as a young entrepreneur, you have already created a product, or you're working on your minimum viable product, and you want to see what is that price I should keep to so that customers start buying. So that becomes your goal. My goal is to identify the price point at which customers will buy my product for the benefit which they are getting out of it. This is one. For others, the goal could be what is the delta change if I make in the price will affect the revenue of my organization. For others, it could be what is the delta which if I change, how will it affect the demand of a certain product, certain category of product. So it's very important for all of us to understand that what is the goal of my testing. मैं अगर प्राइस टेस्टिंग कर रहा हूं तो मैं क्या पर्पस के लिए कर रहा हूं. So it's very important to define and articulate the same. The second point, choosing competing products for reference. This becomes a very exciting point, a very exciting starting point, I would say. Okay, fine, there are players in the market who are charging this and that, so that could be my reference point. But you should always understand what value you are delivering. See, at the end of the day, there will be only 4 or 5 to 6 players maximum. 6 ही player market में हो सकते हैं जिनके नाम अप फ्रंट कस्टमर को स्पेसिफिक इंडस्ट्री में याद रहे. 6 प्लेयर भी मैं ज्यादा बोल रहा हूं, 4 से 5. आप अगर ई कॉमर्स जाइंट्स को ले लो आज की डेट में, नेम दोज ई कॉमर्स जाइंट. अंकित, आई वुड आस्क यू नेम 6 ई कॉमर्स जाइंट्स.
Yes, very few. Might be 4 to 5. Flipkart, Amazon, like these all.
And third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one. Right? So point is, if you are those 10th of the player in the market, don't get into it. Then it might not become a brand as such. You will अपना आप रोजगार चला लोगे छोटा सा कुछ बिजनेस करके, but मुश्किल होगा. So you have to be recognized by the customers. And how will your customers recognize you? Your customers will only recognize you with the value which you are adding to their lives. Or I would say the benefit which your customers are getting by accessing or using your product or a service and then translating that into a value. So there always have to be something different, something better from your competitors which you have to do. Otherwise, you are another competitor here. Your place doesn't exist in the market. So your competitor pricing point could be a starting point. Keep fine, वो अगर सपोज वो ABC फीचर दे रहा है, मैं भी अगर ABC फीचर दूंगा तो मैं भी वो 100 रुपए भी चार्ज करूंगा ना. मैं दे रहा हूं ABC plus XYZ, which will add to 50 rupees. So I will charge 150 rupees. So it could be a starting point, it could be a reference point, but you have to be very smart in understanding कि value क्या दे रहे हो customer को. Third thing, once you do and establish this price testing, what you have to do, it's very important to get the right set of data. And when I say data, it is very important for any of us who is doing price testing to reach out to the correct set of customers or correct set of buyers. पता चला प्रोडक्ट तो बना रहे हो बच्चों के लिए और टेस्टिंग कर रहे हो पेरेंट्स के साथ, हो सकता है वो भी, क्योंकि एट द एंड ऑफ द डे यूजर्स आर कस्टमर्स. यूजर्स आर योर, फॉर एग्जांपल आपका कोई टॉय है, टॉय का यूजर आपका किड हो सकता है, 4 years 3 years old kid, बट द बायर्स आर एट द एंड ऑफ द डे पेरेंट्स. राइट? सो ये एग्जांपल थोड़ा गलत पड़ गया, बट मैं फिर भी बता रहा हूं कि हो सकता है आप कुछ ऐसा प्रोडक्ट बना रहे हो जिसका जो 18 to 25 years एज ग्रुप के लिए है, बट यू आर टेस्टिंग इट विद 65 years old. So identifying the right set of people for your price testing based on the problem for the set of people whom for the based on the problem जिसके लिए आप solve कर रहे हो, it's very important. And accordingly it's very important to set up the mechanism जहां से आपका data collection भी robust हो. And the fourth point is analyzing the results. You have to be smart enough, and I think as an entrepreneur, if you're I consider every entrepreneur to be very smart. So you would be very smart enough to analyze the data in a right way. Don't analyze as per your convenience कि भाई अरे मैं 200 रुपए का लेना चाहता हूं, ये देखा मैंने 20% लोग बोल रहे हैं 200 में, तो 200 में चला जाओ, 200 में चलो बेचना शुरू करता हूं. No, analyze it critically so that you can make the right decisions. Right? See, it's always important to understand that decisions are right on that moment based on some data, some facts. But it is not always right to say कि decisions are always right, कि 2 साल बाद जब तुम देखोगे ना तुमको लगेगा वो decision गलत था, or even in 6 months you will realize you have failed with that decision, right? So point is, with that set of data which you have collected, with those facts which you have collected, at least at that point make those critical decisions by analyzing the data critically. Okay, so these are the stages. Number 1, defining the goals for your testing. Second is choosing competing product for your reference purpose. Data collection in the right manner, analyzing results. Now I will touch upon basic types of testing which is done. Traditional marketing approach बताती है आपका A/B testing होती है, A and B, give 2 options. So for example, for a same product, you keep 2 price tags. I have this mobile phone. I'll keep 10,000 rupees for this mobile, and I will keep maybe 15,000 for the same mobile, but I will give it to a different set of user. मतलब आपका अगर ये मोबाइल फोन 18 to 40 years मेल फीमेल के लिए है सपोज, राइट? सो आइडेंटिफाई दैट 100 to 150 odd people in one group and give them this at one price and see what is the response from that set of people. So that's A. No, that's option A, I would say. And then you sell it for 15,000. Try to sell it for 15,000 for a similar set of age group of people, which is again 150 odd जनता, and try to see what is the response. किस पे डिमांड ज्यादा आ रही है, कहां पर मैं फुलफिल कर पा रहा हूं उनकी रिक्वेस्ट. क्या वो 100 में से क्या 100 बिक गए एक जगह, दूसरी जगह तो 15,000 में आपने देखा 100 में से सिर्फ 10 ही बिके हैं, या उधर दूसरी तरफ आपने देखा 100 में से आपके 70 बिक गए जिसमें 10,000 रुपए था, और दूसरी तरफ आपने देखा 100 में से सिर्फ 10 ही बिके. सो आई थिंक द ऑप्शन ए वाज बेटर. So that's how you conduct A/B testing, wherein for the same product you set up 2 different prices जो आपने सोचा है based on the value based pricing, considering all the margins, considering all the markups which will be used for running the business so that you can manage your cash flows. वो सारी चीजें आपको इस pricing में define करनी पड़ेगी, and you test it with a 2 different set of people with the same segment, in the same segment, and then analyze the result, collect the data, analyze the result कि कहां पर result better आया है. This is one way, A/B testing बोलते हैं. Second could be typical surveys. तो आपका कोई प्रोडक्ट है, आप ऑनलाइन सर्वेस फ्लोट कर दो या फिर पेपर पेंसिल सर्वेस फ्लोट कर दो, गिव देम द रेंज कि दिस इज द प्रोडक्ट, दिस इज माय प्रोडक्ट, एक्सप्लेन देम द प्रोडक्ट, दिस इज द रेंज, कहां पर आपको लगता है ये चीज सही हो, and then you give those questionnaire based surveys. It can be done online, it can be done through paper pencil as well. The kind of what is important in surveys, the kind of questions you put up in the surveys. So it's very important, learn that part कि किस तरह के क्वेश्चन मैं पूछूं ताकि मेरे को सही डेटा मिले और मैं सही एक्शन ले सकूं उसके ऊपर. The interesting part is this monadic price test. What does it say? That कि you have some 100 plus people in one group और उनको one price to a one group of respondents, और ये ऑनलाइन होता है. A/B टेस्टिंग में हमने मार्केट में जाके उसको किया है, यहां पर हम ऑनलाइन कर रहे हैं. क्या कर रहे हैं, एक उसको हम सपोज बोलेंगे एक कोई एनीथिंग, यू टेक अप ईयरफोन्स. एक ईयरफोन है विच इज कॉस्टिंग यू विच विल कॉस्ट यू $40 or 40 rupees for example. ठीक है, and then you float it to 100 odd people and then see are they willing to buy those features of a headphone at 40 rupees suppose. एक उसमें आप रेंज रखो, रेंज कैसे डिसाइड करोगे, मार्कअप, प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी, वो सब कंसिडर करने के बाद. सो आपका अगर 10 रुपए सपोज कॉस्ट आ रहा है एंड आफ्टर वैल्यू बेस्ड प्राइसिंग यू केम अप कि मैं 40 रुपीज से लेके 150 रुपीज तक एक बैंड बनाता हूं जिसमें 40, 50, 80, 120, 150 ये 4 प्राइस पॉइंट रखता हूं. तो हर प्राइस पॉइंट के लिए 40 रुपीज के लिए यू सेंड इट टू 100 और पीपल, एक सर्वे. 100 के लिए यू सेंड इट टू 100, 100 के लिए यू सेंड इट टू 100 और पीपल, 100 and plus. 80 के लिए send it to 100 people and see what are the responses, and based on those responses you decide कि which is the sweet spot जहां पर customers are ready to pay based on the number of responses. 100 में से कितने लोग, 100 में से 80 ने बोला, 100 में से 80 ने बोला 80 रुपए सही है, और 100 में से 20 ने बोला 40 रुपए सही है, 100 में से 60 ने बोला कि 50 रुपए सही है. तो यानी कि वो 100 में से 80 वाले ने 80 रुपए बोला है. द नंबर इज मोर 80%, so I will go for 80%. So that you already have a set of people who are accommodative for 80 rupees price band. और आप जो 80 रुपए में खरीद लेगा वो शायद उसको अगर तुम 50 रुपए वाला भी दोगे वो भी खरीद लेगा क्योंकि वो कम है. So people will be ready to buy for it. So accordingly you do it, but one price with one set of group and online, and getting the number of responses based on the percentage of responses which people are accepting at that particular price point. Okay. Now there are few mistakes also which are done well, because nothing is I would say सब कुछ leak proof तो होता नहीं है. There are always pros and cons attached to it. So what are the typical general की टेस्टिंग गोल को हम प्रॉपर्ली डिफाइन नहीं कर पाएंगे. हम रेवेन्यू की बात कर रहे हैं प्राइस चेंज में, और हम एनालाइज क्या करने लगे कि कितने प्राइस में बेचना है. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू डिफाइन द टेस्टिंग गोल एंड अकॉर्डिंगली यू सेट अप, use any of these price testing methodology to come up with your concrete data. Then second is lot of say people say ज्यादातर यही होता है हमारे साथ कि हम ज्यादा लोगों को रीच आउट नहीं कर पाते हैं. वी हैव इनसफिशिएंट डेटा, तो स्टैटिस्टिकल एनालिसिस भी नहीं कर पाएंगे उससे. तो इंश्योर करो कि डेटा कलेक्शन आपके पास अच्छा हो. अगर आप इंश्योर कर रहे हो कि मोनोलिक टेस्टिंग में 100 लोगों से ऊपर ही जाना है मेरे को, तो आप इंश्योर करो उस प्राइस पॉइंट के लिए 150 लोगों के पास जाओ. मोनोलिक टेस्टिंग 50 लोगों पे नहीं सही हो पाएगी. ठीक है ना. सो यू शुड हैव good number of people who will participate in your surveys or A/B testing or monotic testing. Third one, unable to present right choices, focusing more on product cost for pricing than the value. जो मैंने पहले बताया, it's very important to understand the value. So rather than just costing की बात करने के अलावा, try to see कि मैं किस तरीके का options दूं so that customers also start perceiving the value which I am offering at the right set of price, so that you can charge पैसा from the customer. So people don't give option. उनको लगता है कि भाई अरे कहीं ज्यादा तो नहीं हो जाएगा, मैं 30 रुपए का प्रोडक्ट है यार, मैं उसको 150 रुपए में कैसे बेचूं. भाई तुमको बिजनेस रन करना है, तुमको अपनी जेब में पैसा लगाना है, 4 लोगों को तुमको सैलरी देनी है. What will you do? You have to take that decision. You have to be a smart businessman and an empathetic entrepreneur. Empathetic entrepreneur इसलिए क्योंकि you have to understand the customer's perspective. Smart businessman इसलिए क्योंकि तू बिजनेस रन करना है भाई. और मैं दूसरे तरीके से इसको कहता हूं, you have to be very shrewd businessman and an empathetic entrepreneur. ठीक है. So it's very important to come up with those right choices so that you come to the right set of conclusion for your business, for surviving. जब तक तुम्हारे पास सिक्वा कैपिटल नहीं आया था, या फिर जबलपुर इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर आपके यहाँ सीट बने नहीं डाल देता है, तब तक. ठीक है. ओके. So I think this is the last slide. So getting the right price, as I mentioned, कि it is very subjective. आपको बोलो कि ये राइट प्राइस है, जैसे ही आपको लगेगा कि हाँ अरे 100 रुपए पे तो बहुत अच्छी बिक्री हो रही है, आप लालची हो जाओगे. आपको लगेगा चलो अब 100 पे हो रही है, चलो 120 करके देखता हूँ. सो इट्स वेरी सब्जेक्टिव, कि आप किस प्राइस पॉइंट पे ओके हो फॉर अ सर्टेन ड्यूरेशन, राइट? एट द एंड ऑफ द डे एवरी 6 months 1 year इन्फ्लेशन तो हो रहा है ना. सो इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर यू टू कीप ऑन रनिंग दीज एक्सपेरिमेंट्स. जो सेकंड पॉइंट है, एक्सपेरिमेंट्स एंड टेस्टिंग कंटिन्यूअसली. इंश्योर करो कि हर 3 महीने में मैं एक्सपेरिमेंट्स और टेस्ट करूं, प्राइस स्ट्रेटेजी को छेड़ू कहीं जाके, आई शुड टच देम एंड सी व्हाट्स हैपनिंग, व्हाट इज कस्टमर थिंकिंग. आधे ओके कि टमाटर 250 रुपए किलो मिल रहा है, क्या मैं टमाटर डालूं कि नहीं डालूं? रियल टाइम एग्जांपल्स हैं ये सब, राइट? यू आर मेकिंग अ बर्गर. अभी रिसेंटली राइट, बर्गर किंग, मैकडॉनल्ड्स, दे स्टॉप एडिंग टोमेटो. Tomato was out of burgers for almost a week. Why did they do that? They cannot. At the end of the day, they have to pay salary. They are happy. Customers बुरा थोड़ा मानेगा, because they customers will also understand, because it's burning their pockets as well. 250 रुपए किलो टमाटर, but it was out. So you have to be very quick in making such decisions. How is inflation affecting your costing? How is inflation affecting the pricing? What is customer thinking about your pricing? What is customer perceiving about the value which you are giving to the customers? So it's a very continuous process. And each time you launch a product, as I mentioned, you have to repeat this cycle again and again, rather than कि अब तो हो गया, नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होता है. So it's a continuous process. Keep on doing it. And I mentioned, be smart enough to ask more from the customers for the value you provide. And customers इतनी जल्दी मानता नहीं है. But what you have to do, you have to make them, you have to educate them, you have to educate your customers. So that is also again a process. मैं इतना चार्ज क्यों कर रहा हूँ? मैं इतना चार्ज इसलिए कर रहा हूँ कि इसके बेनिफिट्स हैं. इसके बेनिफिट्स आपके हेल्थ के हो सकते हैं, आपको मेंटली हो सकते हैं, आपका रेवेन्यू बढ़ सकता है. That's why I'm able to help you. That's why I'm charging you this much. Last anecdote from my end, don't leave money on the table. What does that mean? कस्टमर के पास, आप अगर अपने राइट सेट ऑफ कस्टमर के पास जा रहे हो, तो अगर उसके अंदर कैपेबिलिटी है 150 रुपए देने के लिए आपके प्रोडक्ट की, तो 150 निकाल के लाओ, ना कि 140 निकाल के लाओ. That's the way you have to approach your businesses and your startup. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a very well covered session by you. I think you covered majority of the topic related to the price testing and all. You covered the introductory part, product-based costing and the value-based costing and the importance of it. एक question है जो कई बार startups हमारे साथ रखते हैं. There is some marketing strategy, or we can say a customer psychology behind the pricing. We have some of the famous and tested pricing strategy like price 99, 999, buy one take two, right? These all are some of the tested we can say strategy जो कस्टमर को अट्रैक्ट करते हैं. एंड अभी बहुत फेमस चल रहा है कि हमने प्राइसिंग एमआरपी कुछ और डाला, उस पे हमने क्रॉस लगाया एंड नया ऑफर प्राइस सेल. That is also
Absolutely.
some sort of a strategy to
I
have
mean,
the actual
yeah.
price.
Yeah, so it's more of about understanding the consumer's psychology, and understanding consumers' behavior. See, I'll tell you, कोई आपको बोले कि एक प्रोडक्ट है जो 13 रुपए में मिल रहा है. कितने रुपए में मिल रहा है? 13 रुपए में. I don't know, what should I take? Let me have this. So this is a remote, AC remote. This costs you 103 rupees. कितना अंकित?
103.
103. हाँ, और बगल में एक सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ अ प्रोडक्ट है, 4 रुपए का डिफरेंस है. ये 99 रुपए मिल रहा है. आई टुक अ कोम. बट दूसरा जो है सेम प्रोडक्ट है, रिमोट ही है, सेम है, बगल वाला दुकान वाला 99 रुपए में दे रहा है. तो आपको जब आप कंज्यूमर साइकोलॉजी को समझोगे, तो हाँ, 3 रुपए ज्यादा है, 4 रुपए ज्यादा है, इतना मायने नहीं रखता है 4 रुपए. माई पॉइंट इज, चीपर भी है, 99 रुपए लेगा, लेकिन आपको जब 103 चार्ज करोगे तो लगेगा मेरे से 3 रुपए ज्यादा ले रहा है, 100 रुपए में दे देता कम से कम. आप समझ रहे हो? तो अगर किसी प्रोडक्ट का दाम 13 रुपए रख रहे हो, 12 रुपए रख रहे हो, तो कस्टमर विल स्टार्ट थिंकिंग, अरे 3 रुपए ले रहा है, 10 रुपए कर देता तो वो कम की तरफ जाएगा. जब आप 998 रख रहे हो, 999 रख रहे हो, तो कस्टमर लगता है चल ठीक है, वो 3 फिगर हो गया ना, 4 फिगर बड़ा लगता है. तो एट दैट while buying customer, if see what is buying at the end of the day, is buying a logical decision or a emotional decision? I don't know, आपने सुना होगा इस चीज को लोगों को कहते हुए. What is buying?
Many time it's an emotional decision.
100% of the times research says it's an emotional decision, Ankit. It's an emotional decision. So people, marketers play with your emotional psychology, emotionals. तो वो बोलता है ठीक है 100 रुपए में तो 99, तो 2 फिगर दिख गया ना, you will save it. And then striking off, same thing. It's saying comparison because it's a comparative. So when you have two things in comparison, so what do you do? So for example, मैं अपने केस में बताता हूँ. I work on cold pressed juices and all. तो I give customer, I charge premium charges क्योंकि वो cold pressed है, 100% pure है, without sugar है, from best of raw fruits in the market. So I never shied away from charging 120 rupees for 200 ml का मौसम्बी का juice. My point is, I give them comparison. I give them comparison in what? I give them 300 ml also. 300 ml at 140 rupees and 200 ml at 130 rupees. तो जब वो 200 ml कंपैरिजन देखा, ठीक है मेरे पास 130 रुपए चीपर है, मैं ले लेता हूं. अब क्या होगा, 200 रुपए में मेरा मार्जिन ज्यादा हो जाता है, लेकिन कस्टमर को कंपैरिजन मिल गया, चीपर ऑप्शन भी मिल गया. एट दैट बाइंग, ड्यूरिंग दैट बाइंग मोमेंट, आई एम गिविंग देम ऑप्शंस, आई एम गिविंग देम अ चीपर ऑप्शन. व्हेन ही इज रेडी टू बाय दैट चीपर ऑप्शन, मेरा मार्कअप भी ज्यादा है, मार्जिन भी ज्यादा है, तो मैं चाहता हूं वो 200 वाला खरीदे मेरे से. So these are all smart tactics, give customers the comparisons. Go to McDonald's, French, medium, small, large. Go to Starbucks, medium, small, large. मिलती है ना. So customers are given the choices. Once they're given the choices, they feel happy. पहली बात तो कि I have, see, human beings have a tendency of getting empowered. कि मेरे हाथ में सत्ता आ जाए. तो मार्केटर्स वही कर रहे हैं, आपको ऑप्शन दे रहे हैं ना. दे आर मेकिंग यू हैप्पी. ब्लडी 3 चीजें हैं, तुम चूज करो भाई, हमने दे दिया तुमको. एंड प्राइसिंग किसमें कितनी रखनी है, दैट्स अ मैटर ऑफ कैलकुलेशंस, प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी, ये सारी चीजें देख के. सो मेकिंग योर कस्टमर्स एम्पावर्ड, मेकिंग योर कस्टमर्स हैप्पी, मेकिंग योर गिविंग देम ऑप्शंस, ऑल दीज थिंग्स लीड टू अ साइकोलॉजिकल बैलेंस एट दैट मोमेंट डिसीजन, ताकि कस्टमर खाली ना जाए. अब मैं उसको एक ही ऑप्शन दूंगा जो 400 रुपए का मिल रहा है, वो चला जाएगा ना वापस. मैं चाहता हूं वो अगर आ गया है तो खरीदे. फॉर ऑल द एंटरप्रेन्योर्स, एंश्योर कि कस्टमर वॉक्स इनटू यू, ही शुड बाई. इफ यू आर वर्किंग विद दैट zeal, देन यू विल बी सक्सेसफुल. अदरवाइज लगे नहीं ये आ जाएगा, दूसरा आ जाएगा, नहीं भाई, उसको संभालो, वो आया बड़ी मुश्किल से है. So
Yes.
do all these things. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So it was very effective and fruitful session, and definitely our startups got understanding all about the pricing and its importance and how they can make a real test on ground so that they can come up with the real price, and they have a very good segment of customers. So once again, on behalf of Jabalpur Smart City and Jabalpur Incubation Center, we are really grateful to you for your commitment and for your time and for this wonderful session. Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting. Looking forward for more sessions, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you.